Hello, pod smashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
Pod Smash.
Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer. And I started tinking too early.
Mine's in a can, so I got you.
Nice. We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, catching Penguin mid-swallow, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight we are rolling out the red carpet, we are breaking out the paparazzi, and we are going to be talking about celebrities, specifically celebrity cameos in video games. So all of those massive movie stars that decide to deign to appease the nerd crowd that are their fans and show up in some way, shape, or form in being involved in video games, attaching their names and their reputations to these video games, for better or for worse. We want to talk about that. It is a phenomenon that is fairly recent, and all things considered, does not go back too terribly far in video gaming, although you'd be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk all about that tonight, and we will get to that, but we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking the first boring repeat that I've had in a very long time. And that is yet another Bell's Two-Hearted Ale. I had another option in the fridge that I was not feeling tonight. So I waxed eloquently about how amazing this beer is last week, and the story of how Bell's wasn't distributed in Virginia. And so I've gone through several 12-packs and 6-packs over the holidays of this beer, and this is my last one left over from the holiday break. So I'm drinking it again.
Nice. I have a repeat beer as well, but I haven't had it on the podcast for a while. I don't remember the last time. I want to say maybe in the spring. Anyways, it definitely was before COVID, or maybe like in the very early stages of COVID, because I definitely brought it over to a friend's house, and I remember you were jealous that I shared it with him and not you. But I am drinking, I grabbed a 6-pack of Troganator from Trogs Independent Brewing, and I love this beer. So good. You know, you had mentioned at one point that you noticed that there was a higher takeover, like IPAs were starting to fade out of the massive takeover, and in favor of, and they're back. Yeah. I mean, I went to Food Lion and it was just IPAs. Sometimes you'd see them switched up with just the regular pale ales or the American pale ales, but none of that was like appeasing to me. So it was between this and like Dark Hollow or another 4-pack of Goodwood, and I was like, I'm gonna go with the Troganator because I really like this beer. It's strong too, so it'll get me feeling good. I'm talking about celebrities, talking about all my celebrity crushes. But I want to read it because I don't know if I read it last time. It doesn't matter. It's been, like I said, it's been a while, so I'm gonna reread this. This may be a reread, but I think it's pretty funny. Monks had fasting figured out. No food, no problem. Just drink a double bot, thick and chewy with intense notes of caramel, chocolate, and dried stone fruit. Nader, as we call him, serves as a tribute to this liquid bread style. I think that's pretty funny. They're talking about how monks would use this to avoid fasting, and I'm like, if you are fasting, don't drink this beer, in the sense of like, it's packed with calories and sugar, and it's not going to do you any favors. This is not a workaround to fasting. I understand the sentiment, though. I think it's pretty funny, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's, got that malty, almost caramelly note to it. I like it a lot.
Speaking of Trogs Independent Brewing, I never got a Mad Elf in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw them in the stores, it was too early for me to want it, and I was trying to stock up on some of the other things I was looking for. And then when I went back to find it, it was sold out. But then I got, like Goose Island's Bourbon County and Hardywood's Gingerbread Stout, and continued to move forward with those for a while, and then circle back to the stores after that, right around Christmas. I mean, really close to the day of the holiday, and Mad Elf was sold out everywhere. And I was like, very, very sad. I never got it.
How many years in a row had you had a Mad Elf up to this point?
Probably like 7 or 8.
Yeah, that's a streak. That's a sad streak to break, unfortunately.
Yep, I tried.
I noticed something funny that was sold out. I think I texted you about it, and you were confused. But I'm not on a diet this year. We were able to kind of keep our weight under control for this year during quarantine, surprisingly. And so normally this year I would probably be on keto, but at this point, my wife and I decided we didn't need to do that or feel the need to do that. But I was at Food Lion, and I was seeing there was a lot of stuff sold out, and I looked at trying to identify what was sold out, and I saw that like they had 2 different sections for Slightly Mighty, and it was sold out. The Dogfish had Slightly Mighty low-cal beer, and I texted you about it. And you thought that I drew the comparison immediately. I was like, oh, this is sold out because so many people are on New Year's resolutions, low carb New Year's resolutions or whatever. And I texted you about that, and you're like, you're on a New Year's resolution? Ha ha ha. And I was like, no, I'm not. It's sold out because other people are on New Year's resolutions. I just thought it was pretty funny. But
it's a great take because I wouldn't have even thought about that. I would have just walked in and been like, oh yeah, there's that. And I would have just walked on. But yeah, it's a great thought. It's the low calorie beers. I've also noticed another trend in the beering industry in the beer industry is alcohol free craft beer is coming out now. Because more and more people are jumping onto dry January, a time where you would fast from alcohol altogether. And so craft brewers are trying to jump on that as a market opportunity to make some money. So why not? It's genius.
Everybody talks about how like a lot of businesses make their money in December because all those last minute sales before the holidays and how there's X percentage of all companies make most of their profits that month or whatever.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see what businesses in particular profit most off of January because of the New Year's resolutions.
And treadmill, biking, manufacturers, dieters, diet programs and apps. Yeah.
100%. They would probably make a killing this month and then no other month for the rest of the year.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. What a weird culture we live in.
It is, isn't it?
Cool. All right. Well, enough about beer. Is there anything you want to talk about? We don't have a ton of time for banter, but is there anything you want to talk about before we move towards? Yep.
So trophies. I heard a take on a podcast about trophies, and I know you and I have exchanged our plans for like laying out a roadmap for our next platinums that we're going to go for. And we had a What Do You Learn last week. So if you want to hear about the details of what those are, you can hit that up. And I was thinking about a new take on trophies. And the reason why I even thought about this is, one, I am inundated with new titles. I have a stack of 6 games right now that I currently want to play. And Persona 5 is one of them. So is Dragon Ball Z and Planet Coaster, because I love coaster, like theme park create like simulator stuff. And I was thinking, like, what if in 2021 this sounds nuts, backed away from the platinum chase and just played more games. And just like expanded like Maneater came out as one of the free January PlayStation Plus games, and I want to play that. And Shadows of the Tomb Raider I've been sitting on for years, and I'd like to finish that. And Nier Automata, as you talked about on our new show, like you want to play that, and you're going to stream it. You have streamed it. There's all these different things that I kind of want to go back to, and like a backlog to tackle. So I've kind of like, maybe I don't just chase after the full 100% completion.
You're going to hate that, though. You mentioned how you hate seeing the like partial completions on your trophy list.
I know.
It's going to be tough for you.
And the take that I heard was that approaching platinums like this as a love letter, and in that if you really genuinely love a title, you would go after the platinum. And I can give you some examples of things I did not do this with that I would have if I'd had this mentality. So the mentality of a love letter. What does that mean? Death Stranding. I would have platinumed that game if I had this love letter mentality, because I enjoyed the game so thoroughly and so much that I only neglected the platinum because it wasn't quick to attain. It's possible to get it. It just takes a lot of time. And that time that you put in is like you saying, I really genuinely love this game. Final Fantasy VII Remake was another one that I genuinely loved, and I wanted to get the platinum despite how hard it was. And I did. I actually did get that platinum. But there are titles that I don't platinum for reasons, even though I adore the game. Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, of course, I did platinum those, and that would have stood for this. But what games do I play that I don't enjoy and I'm kind of done and don't want to platinum? There's a list. Look at my trophy wall. I have 40 platinums, and of those 40 games, there are several where I was just done. I was done with the game. I hated it. I didn't want to play it anymore, and I was frustrated and angry by the time I got the platinum, and I was extremely excited to move on. And I sort of dipped my toe in this water in 2020 when I breezed through the Metro games without worrying about trophies, and it was very freeing. Because I started the game like, I'm not going to get a platinum. I'm just going to play these games. I want to experience the story. And I highly recommend the Metro series. They are awesome games. So anyway, it was just a dabble. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've been approaching trophies. There are a few platinums, I think, on my list that I had that super frustration. I'm just doing this for the trophy at this point. But even many of the ones I was frustrated with, like Cyberpunk 2077, I was very frustrated with that platinum for a lot of reasons. I still love the game, and I still think it was worth having on my wall, and I wouldn't have gone after the trophy if I hadn't done that. So I'm not 100% in the sort of love letter area, but I'm definitely more in the love letter camp than you are, because I would say that almost all the platinums on my list are games that I adore enough to get the platinum. And I think it's good. I think it'll be healthy for your gaming habits, and it will free you up to try more things and then not feel like you have to reject something just because you think the platinum is unattainable. And maybe, just maybe, if you have this mentality, maybe I might be able to get you to try Bloodborne out more successfully. Because if you're not like, I have to get the platinum on it, the platinum's so hard, then maybe you'll try it. And maybe even more so, you'll love it and get the platinum anyways, like I did.
How about that? Right? Yeah. And I'm looking at my list of 40 platinums, like I mentioned, and games that I would not have platinumed are things like Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, because that was just like an easy platinum that I just did for the sake of nostalgia. Far Cry 3 Classic Edition. I would have just played the story and moved on, but I platinumed it because of my drive. And that's just a couple of examples. Medieval, you actually got that for me for Christmas in 2019. I finished it in 2020. No, I didn't. I finished it right before the new year. And I platinumed it, but did not enjoy the platinum at all. The game was great. I played through it pretty quickly. But then you have games like Jedi Fallen Order, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Mortal Kombat 11, and those games I have platinums in, and I love those games. They totally deserved it. But Control is another game I probably would not have platinumed. I would have just played the story and moved on. So if I approach this love letter mentality to my trophy list, it would look very different. And I wonder, because the stuff that like I love about trophies is also the competitive aspect to it, where I look at my friends list and I see how many trophies everyone has and how many platinums they have and what level their profiles are and how often do they get trophies, what's the rate every month, how many trophies do everyone get, and I like chart it all out and compare, and I'm like, who's doing the most gaming right now, who's really churning out the trophies. T-Bone, friend of the show, he surges like crazy. He gets a ton of trophies really, really fast, and then it's like nothing for a while. And then he comes back. And he's actually caught a ton of friends on my friends list. So I've got like my whole friends list ranked, and I track everyone. James, friend of the show. Jason, friend of the show. You, of course, Penguin. And I track everyone, what they're doing. I love looking at what games they're playing and like all the trophies they're popping. And I don't know. It's a whole new world, a whole new way of thinking for me. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
I think it's healthy. I think you should at least try it for a little while. And then maybe I'll catch up to your platinums and surpass you. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Then you can, my name is Mayo. Once you've done the healthy thing, then you can do the unhealthy thing for a while. Yeah, that's how it works.
That's how I've earned my ability to get My Name is Mayo 1 and 2. The $2 2 platinum. Yeah, there's a sequel. It's also $1.
That's funny.
$2 2 platinums.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think that's cool. I think it's healthy. I think you should try it for a while. So
we'll see. I'm not committed yet.
All right, understood. You still got your plan. You're still working your way through your plan right now.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, trophy hunting is definitely one of our favorite things on this podcast, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Favorite things. A fun segment of our show where we just share with you something that we're digging this week. Shallow or deep, meaningful or not, something silly, a material thing, an emotional thing, a spiritual thing. It doesn't matter, but favorite things.
All right. Hopefully you will be inspired to go out and find your next favorite thing. I will start. My favorite thing is kind of twofold. There's been a lot of things. This has been like a really, really crazy week.
Yeah, to say the least.
But there's been some highlights. Two really small things. One is I found a while ago, I was at Aldi, and it kind of like sat in the back of my fridge for a while. I kind of forgot about it, but I found hot cocoa cinnamon rolls. They're not really cinnamon rolls, but they're just hot cocoa rolls. So instead of cinnamon, they've got like chocolate baked into them, and then you put like a marshmallow drizzle over top of them.
Oh my gosh.
They were so good. Like, we finally made them. Like I said, I kind of I bought them on like a whim, and then I kind of forgot about them, and then I remembered, and I was like, oh, we should make these. And so Macy and I made them this weekend, and they were really, really good.
Oh man,
they're even good, amazing. Like reheated, like and just like I've been munching on them, snacking on them since we made them this week, and I've got one left, and I'm excited because I'm going to eat it after this, and it's awesome. So yeah, that's really good. So if you have an Aldi nearby, you might have a hard time finding them because I think they were like a seasonal item. But if they're still there, look out for like the Pillsbury. I think they're Pillsbury, but they're called hot cocoa rolls or whatever, and they're so good. The other favorite thing is I've been playing Remnant. I've talked about it as one of the games I'm playing, and I think last week's What Are You Playing? And oh my gosh, this game is the best co-op game I think I've ever played. Maybe not the best co-op game, but it's definitely the best one I played in a long time. It's that RPG co-op game that I've been craving for a while to play with friends. I've been playing it with my buddy Justin. Shout out Justin. And oh my gosh, this game is so good. Like, it's got Souls-like elements, and so fortunately I've been primed for that. But like, to me, it's more like a game, like it's like a third-person shooter Diablo with some Souls-like elements. It's not really so much of a Souls game. Like, the best thing is you don't lose anything when you die, so dying is much more forgiving. We fought a boss this weekend, and it was like the closest thing I've encountered, like I've experienced to like a low key, low scale WoW raiding experience, in the sense that this boss was really hard and required you to like focus on things like positioning while also trying to do damage and dealing with phases and dealing with ads and stuff like that. But it was this co-op game on the PlayStation that's like a Souls game, which is we're playing it 2-player as opposed to the max is 3. But like, it's so good. I felt like I was raiding again, and we quote wiped a lot, but we learned it and we got better, and it was great. So I was just like, I went to bed at like 1:00 last night and had so much adrenaline in my system from that fight that like I still couldn't fall asleep for another like 30 or 45 minutes. So I was like zonked this morning, but it was worth it. It was so much fun. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a co-op gaming experience that's like RPG shooter, I would, if you're not a big Souls-like fan, trust me, it's not that bad. The challenge makes it a worthy co-op game. And yeah, Remnant from the Ashes, by the time this drops, I think the sale might be over. So probably. But nevertheless, right now when we're recording this, it's on sale for $30 the complete edition. You get both DLCs. So it's so good. You guys should really check it out if that's the kind of game you're looking for. So that's my favorite things.
There's another multiplayer game where 3 people are ready to go to raid, and we're just waiting on a 4th. And you don't even have it installed. And that is Ghost of Tsushima Legends.
Playing Remnant.
And it is amazing. And I want to play that. But you are holding everyone back.
I'm holding everyone back. Yes. You guys could just find a rando on the 4th and be fine.
It's a raid. There's no public group.
Oh, is it?
You have to find,
Gosh, fine.
Yep.
Fine, we'll grind it out tonight. Let's get on right now. Forget the podcast. I'm going to spend time grinding and Ghost of Tsushima.
You're close, aren't you? Like in the 80s,
I don't remember where I am.
2 nights away. It's quick. Anyway, I'm glad that you found Remnant. It sounds like what I experienced with The Division over the years and Fallout 76 and Ghost of Tsushima. And I don't know, I really haven't had too many great multiplayer experiences. They're far and few between, which is why I absolutely love any of them that come up. And The Remnant sounds very appealing. I was looking at buying it myself. Woo! And when COVID times are over and we all have vaccinations,
we could all drag our PS5s and slap them
I want to
onto
do that,
monitors.
like for real. 2020 was so bad. I don't even care that we have internet. That's the LAN parties are kind of dead, like because the internet, because of Discord and Twitch streaming and all the things that allow us to play games together as a community with our faces. Like LAN parties are kind of dead, but just for the nostalgia. I want to get pizza rolls and energy drinks.
Gaming ambitions I have for the end of COVID, and not just video games. I want to play tabletop again, get together and do D&D or Pathfinder. I want to play board games. Gosh, I've been craving Munchkin. I just inherited from a friend. I inherited like 3 versions of Munchkin I didn't have.
What?
I want to play that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And yeah, I've got so much like things I want to do with friends, gaming related.
We're all going to, like, as a society, we should just take 2 months off, and instead of being quarantined, it's the opposite. Like, we took 2 months off in March and April, right?
Now get sick of each other.
Let's go get sick of each other and take 2 months off to play games and play together and hang out.
I would love to, like, get a cabin that has internet and then just bring all of our games and then drink and get energy drinks and,
pizza
that would be
rolls
amazing.
And Taco Bell.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing. Nice. The thought of that is my favorite thing.
Is it? What's your real favorite thing?
My real favorite thing is I have been playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot a lot with my son.
Oh, nice.
It could be a questionable parent thing, but I understand. I know my son, and it's fine. The game is rated T for teen, and there's some like the D word, the A word. There's a lot of fighting, which I know some people have issues with showing their 5-year-old some fighting scenes and stuff. But I feel like I'm giving my kid the context and explaining to him what all of this means. Sure, and today we walked through the Cell Saga, and I finished it tonight.
That's my favorite. I love the Cell Saga.
And the Cell Saga, and the reason why it was so meaningful was because my son was right next to me. Is Gohan is the one that sacrifices pretty much his entire ability and his whole body to try and save his friends, and his dad, who actually does sacrifice himself, talks him through the very last Kamehameha to defeat Cell. And I completely forgot the emotional depth of all of that. And the game,
you and your son are tearing up, aren't you? You're both sitting there
Like, yeah, I almost did. Like, no joke. I almost like started tearing up. I think I got internally emotional, but not enough to like overwhelm me. So I was just like, oh, this is amazing. Gohan's dad is pushing it, and like my son can get it. He understands because he keeps talking about like, oh, Trunks is Vegeta's son. Vegeta is Trunks' dad.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh,
even with all the like future and time travel and stuff, he's got it.
Well, I don't think he gets all that. I think that kind of like blew his mind, and he didn't really try to make sense of it. As far as like, he doesn't really ask questions. I know what he's thinking about because he's very external, and he'll process things externally. So he'll just ask questions about stuff he's thinking of, and he's never talked about the time travel. So I didn't even go there. I wasn't trying to explain it to him. I don't need him to understand that, but I do. It's great nostalgia for me. That stuff's kind of fluff in the story.
I might have to borrow that. You're gonna have to don't sell that game because I might borrow that from you.
I don't trade games in, homie.
That's right.
I don't. Right. I'm done. Yep. I made a pact like 2 years ago to never trade a game in again, and I only sell duplicates.
Borrow it from you because I want to relive my Dragon Ball Z nostalgia.
Yeah, and the game is like the perfect way to do it because like all of this filler episodes that are just silly and ridiculous. Like I don't know if you remember the Namek Dragon Ball.
They're ridiculous. Yeah, no, there's all kinds of stuff.
Insane. I hated the show when they first got to Planet Namek and they wanted to find the Dragon Balls. Like it drove me nuts. But the game gets rid of all that. It strips all of it away, and you can even fast forward some of the story dialogue that's like important if you want. So you can kind of control it. There's some cutscenes you can't. It's either skip or you watch. But anyway, my favorite thing was my son is very interested in Dragon Ball Z. He loves the show.
That's awesome. He's got a foundation for anime. We'll have to introduce him to some more fun anime. It was my
foundation for anime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I love it because he's not picking up the violent stuff. Like he's not running around trying to hit me, or like he's not running around trying to hit his brother either. And I know that's a big fear, even in myself. I was raised on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and there was a lot of like play fighting and stuff that happened. And I think that's fine. It's boys. They're doing their thing. Because my son is a lot of energy.
He's not being overly aggressive. He's not trying to act out what he's seen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's the part where I'm like using my parental intuition to understand my son to like know whether this is a problem or not. And I explained the stuff to him about like fighting and all this stuff, how it should be, and all those things. He gets it.
So when Sam is older and this COVID stuff is over, we're gonna all get together and binge Dragon Ball Super together.
This is the perfect primer because I've been dying to watch Dragon Ball Super and I haven't. I have not watched it other than the 2 movies that T-Bone came over and we watched. But there's the whole like Super Saiyan God Saiyan whatever craziness and like all this stuff I don't know anything about. There's new villains and it goes into like
there's like girl Saiyans. That's something we hadn't seen up to this point. Yeah,
I mean it's great. So like it expands all of that, but it brings up stuff I never would have thought about, like toxic masculinity in Vegeta, because that's entirely what he is. He's
his entire character arc is one of becoming a grown-up man from being basically a child. I love it.
Even though he's a grown-up in the show the whole time. And like the love and childishness of Gohan or of Goku, and like all of those things, qualities in a dad that matter, like humility, and it's great. So I'm loving this from a parental perspective, but as well as the truncated, pun intended, because Trunks version of the brevity of the game's approach to the story. So that's my favorite thing. It's Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Thank you, T-Bone, for the Christmas gift. It has been amazing.
Nice.
I'm 20 hours in, and it's been awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's favorite things, which leads us to our next segment, which is DLC. Downloadable content. It is a segment of our show where we have just a fun mini discussion and a conversation you wouldn't normally have about video games that may or may not be related to our main topic. Tonight, it's a pretty easy one. So we're talking about celebrities, right? So I'm going to flip our conversation on its head, and instead of celebrities and video games, like real world celebrities and video games, which is going to be the bulk of our podcast, today's DLC prompt is we are going to talk about the reverse of that. What video game characters, if they were to be in our world, who would be most likely to gain celebrity status? Like, who's got the charisma and personality and legendary status to be like, okay, yeah, they are a celebrity. And my first immediate thought is Nathan Drake, totally.
Yep, me too. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's easy.
Roll out red carpet, Nathan Drake, legendary treasure hunter. Yes, sign him up for all the movies.
Yep, he would totally be the Harrison Ford style. And yes, I'm making the Indiana Jones Uncharted parallel because it's totally a parallel.
Yeah.
But then you think about Nathan Drake in a sci-fi game or a movie. It makes sense. Like you could take him as a person, as an actor in something else. Just like, make all of the analogies to Harrison Ford and everything he does, Nathan Drake. But Nathan Drake is more charming and more friendly. Harrison Ford is cranky and old and mean. So that makes sense.
I love Harrison Ford though.
Yeah.
He's got that
go ahead.
charming. Yeah. He's like charmingly. I would also think my other immediate thought is if Handsome Jack were to enter our world, he would also gain celebrity status for himself. Probably a little in a terrifying way, but I think he would win over most of his detractors from his bad things. He would like charm everyone into thinking that he was actually a good guy, because that's literally his character arc in Borderlands 2.
Yep.
So those are my 2 picks right there.
That made me think of Robert Downey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
and like how Iron Man is sort of like a narcissist, egotistical, selfish person, but I put him on the map. Like Robert Downey Jr. played that character, and now he's really popular. So Handsome Jack being the opposite of that, a terrible person, but playing roles that make him seem like a good guy, could totally win over folks. So that makes sense.
I mean, he'd win over me. I would fully 100% even know that he's a bad guy, and I'd be like, yeah, but he's Handsome Jack.
Yep.
He's awesome.
If I mentioned Hollywood and Secret Agent, who would you think of?
James Bond.
So I'm thinking of Solid Snake. And my Metal Gear Solid ban is over, and I'm going to talk about Solid Snake.
No,
in
Solid
movies.
Snake would be okay. I can see that. I can see him being in movies.
He would
like,
be in
retired.
movies just like Metal Gear Solid that have like military based history that's kind of based on reality, but have these fantastical stories or like Navy SEALs type, infiltration, top secret agent missions, and there's tons of shows and movies that do this that are super popular and make a ton of money, and Solid Snake would be the main star of all those tactical espionage genre of movies. He totally would. And
okay,
would
great.
Make tons.
Every time you mention Solid Snake, the next time the cooldown goes like doubles. So you won't be able to talk about Solid Snake now months. For like, yeah, exactly. So now take the amount of months it's been and double that. So you have a year ban, January 11th, 2021. You could do it again in January 11th, 2022.
Well, look out for that for a Metal Gear Solid New Year's in 2022.
Boom, DLC. All right. You have any other thoughts before we move on to talk about real world celebrities? All right, then that's good. The DLC. We had one that we shared, and then we each had our own. Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
DLC is over. Cool. So our main topic today, as we have been talking about since the onset of the episode, and since last week, technically, I guess is when we teased it, we are talking about celebrity cameos. Celebrity culture is its own thing, right? There's this entire industry around following celebrities and gossiping about celebrities and selling tabloids and newspapers. Even in the more benign, just people are in love with celebrities and they have cult followings, so to speak, and people pay attention to their ideas and thoughts on things, and maybe they shouldn't in some regards. Right. Maybe they shouldn't pay so much attention to what celebrities think about various political topics. But I mean, yeah, celebrities are a huge part of American culture, and their presence as moneymakers, as just people that when you attach their name to a project, they sell whatever product you're trying to push. It was inevitable that at some point celebrity culture would run up against video games. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about celebrities in video games. And our first kind of question and prompt then is, what are different ways celebrities can be involved in video games?
You glossed over a small tidbit I'd like to try and explore a little bit. It's like the history, a little bit of history, where this kind of all started in the gaming industry. Because we've talked at length on this podcast about, like, especially in our soul and consoles or gaming by the decades, we started with the 70s and like worked our way through. And in the 1970s, you didn't really have the ability to put a celebrity's likeness in a game. And there was definitely no voice acting or like live audio. Technology wasn't ready for that. And so there were references to things, but not anything real. And I haven't done a whole lot of research about when like the first celebrity thing. I know Steven Spielberg was involved in the E.T. version or the Atari game for E.T. The famously bad one that was buried in the desert. Like, and that's kind of a celebrity cameo because Steven Spielberg signed off on it. Mm-hmm. But this dates back to like the 80s. There was a Bruce Lee game for the Commodore 64, the MSX, there's like the basically PCs consoles of the day back in 1984 called Bruce Lee. like straight up, like they ain't trying to hide it. And then Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, famously for Nintendo in like 1987. And then Michael Jackson Moonwalker, also released on PCs, Commodore 64 in 1988, which I don't know anything about other than Michael Jackson's name is on the cover and in the game. So like those are kind of some of the early examples of really popular. I know the football games, they're named
even
after
Madden. Yep, I was gonna say Madden.
But even
itself.
before that, there was the quarterback. What's his name for Sega Genesis, or even earlier than that. So that's kind of like we're talking about more of like actors or Hollywood focused, not necessarily the sports genre.
But it's that. I mean, that's the origin of it. I mean, and that is our first prompt was what are different ways celebrities can be involved. I mean, it's just how can celebrities be involved in video games? I mean, the whole point of celebrities is to just slap a name on it and say. So we've seen this even as recently as like Guillermo del Toro, the famous director, being attached to originally Silent Hills, the Kojima game. So it's like those were, I mean, those are effectively two celebrities in and of themselves partnering up, attaching their names to a project. And, again, it may even be like Guillermo del Toro could have had a very heavy hand in the cinematography of the game or the writing. But the point of having him involved isn't just his talent, it's also his name. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. So yeah, what you are describing, that was the origin. That's the only way you could have had celebrities attach themselves to video game projects pre-1990, like pre-90s, was to attach their names. And even post, even in the 90s, it would evolve into being like kind of quasi their likeness. I think of like Pierce Brosnan and James in GoldenEye, where it's like, yeah, it kind of looks like him, but yeah. But so yeah, I mean, voice acting. So segueing into that conversation, what are some of the different ways? The big ones are voice acting, physical likeness, and that guest producers. And then I also alluded there's also a fourth way, kind of, where video games have begun generating their own celebrities. So Hideo Kojima is for all intents and purposes, a gaming celebrity. He is a celebrity that gained his fame and gained his notoriety through his work on video games. So when he has now formed his own thing, but like, I mean, he had a cameo appearance in Cyberpunk. So like, yeah, video games are now having self-referential cameos, and that kind of thing happens all the time too. So. Yeah,
and even like an influencer, Alana Pierce, on various YouTube and channels. She used to work for IGN. She's in Cyberpunk. And like she's a video game-ish, and not a designer or developer, but just as someone in the industry that has YouTube channels, Twitch followers, etc. Like she's even got a cameo in Cyberpunk. So that's a different way of getting celebrities. That's new. That's very new. That's like
and Twitch streaming. Yep, I was gonna say the influencers. Then you have streamers and esports players. Those are going to be the new gaming celebrities of the next era. And I know that Fortnite, for example, will release like skins. Like you can get a ninja skin, for your Fortnite character that is the likeness of the streamer Ninja. So a famous streamer goes by the name of Ninja. So I mean those are all kinds of different ways that celebrities can be used essentially to sell video games. But cool. So we're gonna now dig in. The meat of the show is going to be talking about what are some of those like more famous, more notable celebrity appearances. So again, we're not going to necessarily group them by voice acting and physical, like those are just, those are some of the different ways. And we'll talk about, when we say, oh yeah, such and such showed in such and such game, we will say just their voice, or we'll say their physical likeness or whatever. So, let's talk about those.
Some of my early memories of the bigger ones kind of crept up of the PlayStation N64 era, like you were saying with Pierce Brosnan for GoldenEye. But I remember like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater had a ton of skaters, celebrities that were all in there, and Bam Margera in the Jackass movies. They're all like, in that. And then you had like Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible game. And then you had Keanu Reeves for The Matrix. He was in an Xbox game.
It started, I mean, a lot of this is because, like, of course they have to use their likeness because they're making game adaptations of movies. So that's kind of like one way they get kind of snuck in there. In which case, like, are they cameos or are they the main characters? It's fine. I mean, the point still remains. Like, they're using Pierce Brosnan's likeness, and anyone who saw GoldenEye was like, oh, wow, I want to play that game because Pierce Brosnan's in it. Like, certainly there are people who bought it for that reason. And then found out later it was a great game in and of itself, but doesn't matter. Like, that's still the point. So, I'm not discrediting those, but yeah, it does kind of skirt the line of like, they're adaptations? Are they cameos? Well, their likeness is still being used. So in this case, I would agree it matters.
Mm-hmm. And then you can like look at the Batman game. Arkham Asylum had Mark Hamill as the voice of Joker. They brought him from the cartoon. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to bring that one up too. Mm-hmm.
So good. And Ellen Page in Beyond Two Souls, if you remember that. That was kind of a PS3 David Cage game along the same lines of like...
Elliot Page now, remember?
Who's that?
Elliot Page is formerly Ellen Page. He came out as transgender.
They changed their name?
He changed his... Or they, yes. That. Sorry, it is they. Yes, they changed their name.
Okay, I got you. I didn't know that. I'm completely ignorant. I had no clue that happened.
There you go. This is your woke moment for the day.
There you go. That's great. And then like more recently, the Call of Duty games have been like crazy grabbing cameos. So Kit Harington was in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, and when interviewed, he was like, he's personally a bit of a space freak. So he loved being in a game set in space, and he was like a villain. And
then someone cast Kit Harington in something not fantasy. Give him a sci-fi role.
Yep. And then Kevin Spacey was in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and House of Cards. You know, Kevin Spacey kind of fell out of love for the... I mean, he fell from grace.
Yes, he fell from grace. Yeah.
Yep. And then
he was in... What was he in? Sorry, you said... I remember seeing his face. But what game was
he was in? Call of Duty
Duty?
Advanced Warfare.
Gotcha,
it's another Call of Duty game. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Call of Duty, like knocking out the cameos. I don't know. Do you know who Gary Oldman is?
Yes, I do know who Gary Oldman is.
He was in Call of Duty Black Ops 1 back in the 360 PS3 era.
Well, now they've got like this is sort of like a weird celebrity cameo appearance. But I mean, I can't say that having Ronald Reagan in the most most recent one Cold War for all intents and purposes, even though he's dead, like that's still. Not, I mean, again, Ronald Reagan, not only was he one of America's most influential, for better or for worse, presidents, he was also a movie star. I mean, he was a movie star before he went into politics. So he's like
he's a video game star too.
And now he's in a video game, exactly. So he's his likeness is doubly a celebrity cameo, multi-celebrity cameo in the most recent. What is it? It's Black Ops, right? It's Black Ops 4. No. What is the most recent freaking?
It's Call of Duty Cold War.
That's
actually,
right.
It's Call of Duty Black Ops. Cold War. Yeah.
I cannot eye roll hard enough. Like I keep forgetting that we're on an audio podcast. So like I'm just going to say really loudly, eye roll.
There you go. Yeah. I was also going to talk about Norman Reedus in Death Stranding.
Yes.
Monster energy and like how...
And in PT. PT. Don't forget about PT.
Right. And in PT. And then the celebrity cameos that are in Death Stranding. Conan O'Brien is in it.
Yes.
Jeff Keighley, a video game celebrity, is in the game as well. And apparently Hideo Kojima is one of those folks that love celebrity culture. And so as the developer of Death Stranding, it makes sense that he would like feature a entire
it's funny.
Celebrity.
What's like a weird there's an alternate universe out there where Silent Hills got made. What PT was going to become. There's totally there was no falling out between him and Konami. And again, if Hideo Kojima were to execute his vision, I can only imagine being a lover of celebrity culture. There's a parallel universe out there where like Conan O'Brien shows up in Silent Hills like nailed to a wall like something hideous and terrifying, but like he had the same I'm gonna have Conan in this game, but it wasn't Death Stranding, it was Silent Hills, and it was like he's like hanging from his toes upside down over a pit of lava or something. Like, Conan, no.
Oh man. Guillermo del Toro, right? He's Hollywood making that. Anyway, then there was, so don't forget about Vin Diesel, the Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. He was the protagonist in that game. It came out for Xbox and then it was ported to PC later. Phenomenal game, absolutely incredible. It was a sequel to Pitch Black, but a prequel to the movie film that was coming out, Chronicles of Riddick. So like that was the whole thing, and now Vin Diesel is pushed on to make various Fast and Furious games, and like there's cameo appearances from all that, the cast of that in video games. And then Until Dawn, we had Rami Malek from
and Hayden Panettiere. Well, the funny thing is, I was going to bring this up too, because Rami Malek, when Until Dawn came out, when did it come out? I'm blanking.
2015.
15, yeah, okay. So Rami Malek was not a celebrity at that point. Like I fully believe that Rami Malek, like this was like a great gig for him to get that like furthered his career when he got the role on Until Dawn. At that point in time, Hayden Panettiere was the much bigger celebrity cameo in that. And it's funny because now in hindsight, as of now in 2021, if you look and if you are someone playing Until Dawn, you might say, "Oh, that blonde girl's cute. She looks kind of familiar, but I'm not quite sure what she's from." Whereas you see Rami Malek, you're like, it's Freddie Mercury, you know, or whatever, like, or all of the amazing things Rami. He's in the most recent Bond villain in the newest one that's coming out. Like, Rami Malek's a huge star now, so it's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, the developers of Until Dawn can take some pride in like helping further Rami Malek's career, and now that game could potentially sell someone because they're like, oh, Rami Malek's in it. That's amazing. I love that example because that's an example of where like a celebrity's notoriety was actually furthered by a video game, arguably.
Yeah. Absolutely. Don't forget that Terry Crews was like a major feature for Crackdown 3 in its PR and promotion, and like he's in the game.
I love him. I love him so
celebrities are everywhere. I know I'm leaving some out. Like Burt Reynolds was in Saints Row. Mm-hmm. I don't even know. Like there's a ton of celebrities that I don't even know that exist in things. Like I remember the cast of The Matrix being in 2 Matrix games for PS2, Xbox at the time. We had various Star Wars cameo celebrity appearances across all the Star Wars games. So of course Mark Hamill provided his voice, and so did Carrie Fisher and Han Solo. Yes, it's Harrison Ford, but he's Han Solo to me.
He'll always be Han Solo.
Yeah, I don't know. And so you see.
Well, okay, hold on. We have to talk about
what do you have?
The big one. The biggest one. Actually, this is probably the one that inspired me throwing this topic onto the podcast.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, this is the quintessential, like, most recent and as far as like celebrity cameos in video games in, you know, within the last month or so, like this is the cameo that like dominated the conversation is Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077. And this game was already on the map before Keanu Reeves was attached to it, but like Keanu Reeves showing up in the trailer and then walking on stage at like E3 like 3 years ago or whatever, that was like, again, I mean, they named a trophy after that moment because there was, you know, when Keanu Reeves walked out and, you know, someone in the audience goes, "You're breathtaking." He goes, "You're breathtaking." And they named a trophy after they named a trophy breathtaking. Like it created this own kind of culture. Like Keanu Reeves' pull, like really put Cyberpunk like firmly on the map and contributed greatly to the hype surrounding it. So like, and I think of also like Peter Dinklage in Destiny, like, and his voice acting that had to eventually be replaced by Nolan North. So why, you know, again, so this is good. This works as a segue because like Keanu Reeves and Peter Dinklage both serve as really good examples of celebrities that were attached to games that then had major controversy surrounding them. And so I wanted to then, this is kind of the next question. And I literally have it written just as good, bad, ugly, but I want to kind of use that as a framework to say like we just went through a ton of examples. Which ones of those worked and which ones didn't work, and kind of why? why are some of these celebrity, you know, why did you just go when you say Peter Dinklage, who is an actor and a performer you love, and then, you know, but you know, what makes you why is that so like frustrating and ugly? Why does celebrities
specifically with Bungie and Activision over them, and how they handled the original development of Destiny 1 and how terrible the vision, there was no vision, no direction. The story was rewritten. There was a fantastic story they threw away, a very deep, meaningful story they threw away, and replaced it with a very shallow one. Peter Dinklage was on the victim end of that spectrum, where he was brought in as a high paid like celebrity talent cameo.
He was going to be like the Cortana of Destiny. He was this little robot that followed you around. Ghost, this little ball, this artificial intelligence that followed you around and talked with you and gave you stuff. And his performance was so uninspired, but it wasn't necessarily his fault because there was nothing for him to work with. So it was literally just Peter Dinklage reading lines at you to the point where he had to be replaced eventually by Nolan North because his performance was so, people hated it so much.
And I don't even know if it even made it into I think it was patched out, wasn't it?
It was patched out, but it was there on launch. Like you can hear recording. People, you know, go online and just search Peter Dinklage Destiny and listen to some of his voice lines. They're awful. I remember listening to it and being like, oh man, for someone who's so talented and such a good performer, like it's unfortunate because like it wasn't his fault, but it still is like a black mark on his record because they didn't give him anything to work with, but it's still Peter Dinklage in like the worst performance I think Peter Dinklage has ever given.
So earlier you said he was replaced by Nolan North, but Nolan North is the voice of Nathan Drake. Were you talking about Nathan Fillion from Far?
No, because Nathan Fillion plays a different character in Destiny. Nolan North, I believe, does the voice of the Ghost in Destiny 2. I'll double check on that. But so then let's talk about, again, I brought up another person there. I brought up Keanu Reeves. Like, let's talk about Keanu Reeves. Cyberpunk was like the development obviously with Cyberpunk is fraught with its own problems and its own controversies. And again, that's going to kind of forever be in some regards a mark on Keanu Reeves, who is experiencing a renaissance. There was a while where it was like Keanu Reeves, meh. And then for whatever reason, Keanu Reeves has just become a darling in nerd culture recently. So what do you think about his cameo? What do you think about his work as Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077? Because there are mixed feelings.
I thought it was phenomenal. I think Keanu Reeves crushed it. Like the delivery, the vocals, like everything about voice acting and what you can do to deliver the emotion, to make the person the player feel immersed in the scene that's happening, to add the weight, the stakes are here. Like he just crushed it. It was very few times where I was like, okay, that was stupid. And of course, I guess with his breadth of dialogue, because it's insane the amount of dialogue Keanu Reeves has in that game, based on character choices and things that you do, branching, etc. And I really felt it for the endings, because there's like 4 different endings you walk through, and so much different dialogue that's happening. I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I actually thought the character model, the motion capturing, and everything about Johnny Silverhand was done really well. In fact, I had no issues with that specifically. Yeah, so like some of the other NPCs and some of the other story arcs that happened in the game, there were like moments of jank that existed, but everything with Keanu Reeves seemed like that was the linchpin of the game. That was like the solid through line that had no issues. And he appeared at the right spots, he delivered at the right moments, and it was great. So what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was overall good. I wouldn't consider this an ugly one. I wouldn't consider it a great one. It was okay. It served its purpose, and I liked the character. I thought the writing for the character was fine, and I thought Keanu Reeves did a fine job embodying him. The entire game, though, I was just wondering, like it really felt like just a celebrity insert. You know what I mean? Because the entire game, I was like, they could have saved so much money and had Troy Baker done it, and would have been just as good or better. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
There was nothing that Keanu Reeves brought to the table that other performers couldn't have done just as well or better. And, so that I was fine. I thought it was great. All things considered, I thought like his character worked. His character and his performance there was nothing about his performance that was like, oh, this sucked. But it was just, to me, just seemed so unnecessary for it to be Keanu Reeves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I almost felt like if the entire game was Johnny Silverhand's story, that would have been different. Because then Keanu Reeves would have been driving the action, and it would have hit a little differently. Having like Norman, because in that regard, Norman Reedus worked so well in Death Stranding because you're playing him. You know what I mean? You're with him. You're on this journey, and it's like it's Norman Reedus. And I don't know. I just felt like something like that might have been stronger. Just having him as a voice in your head was like, okay, and showing up, as a phantom or whatever. He'll appear as like a phantom essentially character. Like, I don't know like if it brought anything more to the table, it being Keanu Reeves. So that was kind of my take on it, but definitely not in the ugly category like Peter Dinklage's Ghost.
Right.
I confirmed it, by the way, is Nolan North, who replaced him.
Sweet.
Yeah. But it was, I can't necessarily say it was good. It was just kind of okay. I think having Keanu Reeves in there. So
I'm racking my brain now, because that is a whole train of thought that would actually, what is the best, the great,
the single
cameos?
Like the greatest cameo,
And the definition to me of that would be, what does this celebrity bring to this game that if you were to replace that celebrity with anything else, the whole game would fall apart. Like it would just not work. And I can't think of a single one.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately like the conversation. You could frame this as like, and you know what? That's a great segue into our last question, because our last question is, are celebrity cameos more beneficial or more detrimental for video games? And segueing off your little point there is like, I don't know necessarily, because you said I can't think of an example where it's crucial that it's a celebrity, and so therefore like, I don't necessarily think they're detrimental in every case, but they really aren't necessary. Like it's not necessary to have celebrities, and those celebrities are who are already successful and are already wealthy and are already doing just fine, and literally are tacked onto the project. They're signing a really big paycheck, but they're tacked onto the project because the producer thinks they will make more money than they spent having the celebrity on there. But those are jobs that could go to hardworking people in the industry, hardworking, voice actors or performers in the industry that have more experience and do bring more to the table. I think Troy Baker, Nolan North, Laura Bailey, these performers who have made their careers in video games and have that breadth and wealth of experience that they bring to the table. I mean, yeah, Keanu Reeves basically just, one could argue he took a job from Nolan North. Like, Nolan North would have been an awesome Johnny Silverhand, arguably a better Johnny Silverhand, or a newcomer, someone brand new whose career could have been made by performing Johnny Silverhand. So it's just like, okay, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that celebrity cameos are in any way necessary. They're fun, they're fine, but I don't think I would ever buy a game just because a celebrity was in it. There are people who do, and that's okay. But
video games that are based on movies are mostly bad. Like, if you lined them all up, there would be a very small selection of those games that are actually good.
Are really good.
And, yeah. And they're good because the celebrities in the game match the ones that are in the movies. And I think that's the one exception to this. Like, it's necessary to have Vin Diesel as Riddick in Escape from Butcher Bay. And then there's a sequel to that, like Athena or something. I don't remember. Dark Athena, I think. That was a ridiculously good game. It was technologically like profound at the time. It pushed the limits of the original Xbox when it came out, and it was objectively good. It reviewed well. It was a good game. And I think if you replaced Vin Diesel, but the credence goes to not Vin Diesel's performance. It's the fact that Vin Diesel is Riddick. And if you replace him with anyone else, the whole thing falls apart.
Right. It wouldn't
and so
be
it's
the
a
same.
weird situation. And I remember Enter the Matrix. I mentioned it a couple of times. It has Keanu Reeves as Neo, but also the supporting cast through the sequels. I forgot her name for Trinity.
Yes.
She's in it.
Jada Pick. Oh, no. Oh my gosh. I'm blanking her name. Yeah, I'm with you. I know. I thought you were going to say Jada Pinkett Smith. That
was a good Matrix game. It was a supplement to the Matrix story, even though it walked you through some of the events of the sequel. That game would not work if you replaced all those characters with someone else. And then I'm going to give you an inverse example. The more recent Marvel's
Carrie-Anne Moss. Sorry.
There you go. Carrie-Anne Moss.
I have to look at that.
She was also Hogarth in Iron Fist.
Yep. She was awesome.
And various other Marvel.
She was arguably better in the Marvel stuff than she was in
totally.
In the Matrix.
There's no arguably. Yeah, she was way better in the Marvel stuff. And I'm a huge Matrix fan. I love Trinity. Anyway.
Yeah.
the inverse to that is the more recent Marvel's Avengers game. If you would have just cast all of the MCU actors in the game.
Good point. Yeah.
It would have brought the quality of the game to a whole new level. And
it also would have been expensive AF.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the reason. Yeah. That was the reason why Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix didn't do that. But if they did, you might have had something that sold way better, because people adore the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they adore those actors and actresses. So that would have actually bolstered the game. But
but then you have
these weird uncanny valley.
It did, but the same thing you could say the same thing was true for Spider-Man. The Spider-Man for PS4, they had Yuri Lowenthal or whatever. I don't know his exact name, but he was not Tom Holland. And they recently, for the remaster, recast him and redid the motion capture for an actor who looked a little bit more like Tom Holland to make fans more comfortable. And there was a large portion of the fan base that hated it because they liked Yuri Lowenthal so much better. So I honestly think that if Marvel Avengers, Square Enix's Avengers was a good game, people would have not only looked past the quote unquote recasting of the characters, but also would have come to love them. Yeah. Because it's Troy Baker and Nolan North and Laura Bailey, these people they already love.
Yep.
So I think that's, again, I don't think that like that was the downfall of that game, but I get what you're saying.
It's not the downfall of that game, but
the game was definitely raked across the coal. Like there was definitely some lambasting that was happening because of those likenesses. But and it's just weird because you never know what fans are going to react to, because nobody had a problem with Spider-Man not being Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield games. Or exactly. Yeah.
And so when you do look at the celebrity cameos in things like the Call of Duties and Johnny Silverhand and Cyberpunk, you're like, you could replace those folks with anyone and it would not have changed at all. Right. Like it was totally some sort of deal where they wanted to expand publicity and add celebrities to a game to try to bolster its appeal to the mass markets. And Call of Duty already appeals to the mass markets. You don't need to add a celebrity. So I think it's a little extra that's just ridiculous.
Right. It doesn't, it's, again, is it beneficial? Is it detrimental? I mean, it certainly is beneficial because someone may buy it. You know what I mean? I suppose. They're going to make a lot of money anyways. So sure, it's beneficial, but like, I don't think it adds anything to the artistry of the games necessarily. In fact, in some cases, it actually takes away people who are better suited with more experience in motion capture and voice acting. Those skills don't necessarily translate to being great in movies or TV. So I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think in most cases, the average celebrity cameo, again, it's kind of like, it's not a detriment. It's not completely undercutting the integrity of game design. But I don't think it like really benefits anyone other than the publishers who are maybe going to trick someone into buying the game because Kevin Spacey's in it, which is something that now it's a gamble because you never know when a celebrity is going to fall out of grace. There are now people who would not buy that Call of Duty game because Kevin Spacey's in it. So
exactly.
It's definitely I'm surprised they haven't patched him out of it.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
So anyways, cool. Do you have any other thoughts? I will say real quick, because you were talking about Chronicles of Riddick and you were talking about Vin Diesel, and I just have to mention the freaking Arc 2. Vin Diesel in it. Oh my gosh. And that whole long trailer. It was like going on. It was like, okay, this has been like 7 minutes of just Vin Diesel killing people on dinosaurs. Like, what the heck is going on? What is this game was more accurately what my feeling was at the time. But yeah, his appearance, as far as I'm concerned, like you being in Arc 2 is completely unnecessary. As far as I'm concerned.
But that's like his company now, and he's a developer, and so he's like, that's a weird deal. That's not a publisher that's looking to grab a celebrity for the extra boost in fame. That's like a celebrity who's genuinely interested in video games, trying to do something.
That's fun. I mean, the funny thing is, like, it's his face. The whole time I felt like it was like his face on top of the motion capture of a better. Like an actual like motion capture artist. It was a weird homunculus. I was like, that's not Vin Diesel doing these things. It's Vin Diesel's head CGI'd onto a motion capture. Someone doing the mocap. It was very strange.
Exactly.
Experience. It was very uncanny valley. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, that was just sort of like a one final thought I wanted to squeeze out. Any final thoughts on celebrities and video game cultures, where those two meet? All right. Well, if you have thoughts, listener, if you have thoughts, Pod Smasher, and want to share those with us and our community, then please reach out to us. If you love celebrity cameo, what are your favorite celebrity cameos? What do you think celebrity cameos are the worst? And you hate them absolutely and totally. If you just want to chat and banter with us, Termite, share with the good listeners where they can find us to do those things.
Your first stop is 80bitpodsmash.com, where there are links to all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. There are links to all of those there at the website where you can interact with us, share us your thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, concerns. If you want to, please subscribe to us across those social media platforms so that you can be aware of our goings-ons as we live stream, as we post bonus episodes, as the industry does crazy stuff. We share things, we talk about stuff. You can always drop a comment in any of those threads. So please join us on social media across those platforms. If you are new to us and you want to subscribe to our podcast that goes live every Monday at midnight, you can find links to all of our podcast platforms at 80bitpodsmash.com, as well as the RSS feed link that you can feed into any third-party app. If we are not somewhere you want us to be, let us know and we'll put ourselves there. And lastly, if you want to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, that would be amazing. It'll help us become discovered across the algorithms out there. Leave us a review. Be honest. Tell the internet and the world what you think of us, and we will read them on the show. And so it's a great chance for you to troll us or praise us or hate on us. However it was, we will read your review on the show live every single week. And I'm actually going to check right now to see if we have a review.
Yeah, we don't.
So the last review we got was in August of 2020, and we read that on the show. So we are good for our promises. So leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or somewhere else, and we will read it on the show.
Yep. Exciting stuff. All right. Next week, February 1st, we will be doing what may be the last genre deep dive we had. I mean, there are obviously so many different genres, subgenres we could pull out of many of these. But as far as like main overarching genres, I feel like we've hit the majority of them. So the one we haven't really talked about is puzzle games. So this will be interesting because even though we love puzzles in games, I wouldn't categorize many of the games you and I play as puzzle games. So we'll get to explore that all next week. And hopefully you'll join us. Yeah, I've dabbled too, of course.
A little Tetris Attack, a little Witness.
Some Minesweeper, some Solitaire.
I don't know if you're...
They're puzzle games, and we'll talk all about them next week.
Also, the last tidbit here, don't forget about our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where we go live twice a week, Monday nights at 8 p.m. That means tonight, because this episode drops on Monday. Tonight, we'll be live with another 80-bit newscast, running through the weekly news of the video game industry, and Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, we go through a live stream of whatever video game we're digging this week. So be sure to check out our Twitch channel, as well as all of our social media platforms, and be in touch with our community, interact with each other. because the more we grow, the more fun we all have.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, puzzle games. See you then.
See you next week.